everybody? Welcome to Royale Masters Summer Clash Edition, and it is Championship Sunday. We have been working for 2 weeks to get to where we are today. We've given away almost, I guess probably most of our $20,000, but we got a lot more money to give away today. What's up, everybody? I'm Andrew Guy. I'm joined by Joshua, AC, Sharon, AC. We've got every game mode that we've played over the last 4 qualifiers, plus mirror battles today. Really quickly before we get into the format, when you're in a mirror match, what is your first strategy?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, it definitely depends on the deck that you're gonna do, but you do have to figure out the one card that you and your opponent are going to have to keep alive. Whether it's the baby dragon, neither of you guys can take care of the baby dragon when it's on your side of the map. There's gonna be one card that is really gonna be the card that wins you the game. You have to figure that out.
Love to hear it. Love a little breakdown there. And if you're wondering, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about different game modes and mirror mode? I'll tell you right now. Let's get into our format breakdown for Summer Clash here from Royale Masters. We've been doing 4 qualifiers to get us here to today, as you guys can see right there. Triple Elixir, Triple Draft, Sudden Death, and Heist mode just yesterday to get us to where we are today. The top 2 players from each of those individual formats made it all the way through to our championship here on Sunday. And today's format is really interesting. We'll break it down a little bit more because it might be a little confusing as we're kind of throwing it all at you in the beginning, but basically what it is we're going to have all 5 game modes. As you guys can see on the left side, every best of 3 will be a little bit different. Whoever is on the top side of the bracket, we will play their game mode, and then whoever's on the bottom side of the bracket, we will play their game mode for game number 2. And then if a game 3 is necessary, then it will be a mirror battle. And of course, when we get to the finals, it'll be a best of 5. We can break that down for you a little bit more in depth when we get there. So every best of 3 is going to be different. Each player is going to have their favorite game mode or their preferred game mode that they had success in. And then, of course, if we get to that game 3, a mirror battle, which no one has played in yet, at least not here on broadcast. AC, I mentioned money. I mentioned 20K. Why don't you break down those numbers for me? $6,000 up for grabs today, I think.
Yes, sir. $20,000 was the overall prize pool. But we are now done with the open qualifiers. $3,500, no more. We are looking at $6K handed out today. $1,800 going to first, $1,200 to second, $900, $700, and then $350. Hey, look, if you got here, you're talented, but you lose every game, that's all right. You're still walking away with $350 cash.
That's right. Add that into whatever you got from being in those top 2 spots. No matter what, you're walking away with over a grand. And talking about those players, we have 8 competitors that worked all the way through our qualifiers and all those game modes. It was Mohammed Light and Over that did some good work over in Triple Elixir. Triple Draft was Adnan and Wallace. Then we got over to Sudden Death. It was Pedro and Kamagod. Lastly, yesterday, it was Cal Lucas putting on a Heist clinic. I didn't think I'd ever say that in my casting career, but he absolutely did. Nikoko not far behind him, getting 2nd place. And as you guys can see at the top of the top of all those players, so Mo, Adnan, Pedro, and Lucas, the first game in each best of 3 will be played in their game mode. Then the bottom 4 players, Over, Wallace, Kamagod, and Nikoko, the second game in their best of 3 will be played in their game mode. So it's a lot to keep up with, but don't worry, we'll carry you. We'll hold your hand along the way. Let's take a look here at the bracket, and it starts off tough for Kamagod. AC, talk us through this bracket, man.
That's right. Kamagod gets matched up against Mo Light. Mo Light back in the bracket. It's going to be beautiful seeing him play today. Then we have Cal Lucas and Tribe Wallace. I am very excited for this matchup. Both of these players, I mean, they were so impressive on their respective days. And then we have Adnan and Nikoko. And finally, wrapping up the round 1 matches, we have Cal Pedro and Over.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of talent in this lineup. Obviously, world finalist, world champion in Mo Light. You got Pedro, who is our golden ticket holder for, one of our golden ticket holders here in 2023. Obviously, Mo Light, another one of those players. It's hard to decide which accolade you're going to introduce him with, but Kamagod, I'm sure, getting very, very ready. AC, this is super interesting. So, we can get into the nitty-gritty of it now. So our first quarterfinal match, Mo Light and Kamagod. Game 1 will be Triple Elixir, since that was Mo Light's game mode. And then game 2 will be Sudden Death, which is Kamagod's. I know I already did it to you at the beginning and breaking down mirror modes, but what do you do in this situation? This is a true David and Goliath matchup between Kamagod and Molite. How do you even begin to prepare for this? Do you practice a ton of triple elixir? Do you just lean on sudden death and, you know, mirror battles hoping you'll get to game 3? What would you do if you had Mo game 1 of the day?
I think you basically have to go in with the expectation that you're going to win game 2. Really, your only thing that you have to worry about is, hey, if I can take a game 1 or game 3, I can win in game number 2. And I think you can potentially do it. And that's actually, I mean, one of the many reasons why I love all these game modes as a competition. Because, I mean, anybody can take a game off of anybody. And then if you win your respective game mode, you can advance.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the interesting thing. It's basically just like, I need to win my game mode, period. I was able to get here through the qualifiers and the other, 7 competitors. I was the one that came out on top or in second place for the other 6 competitors. That is the place that I need to win. Trying to maybe master your opponent's game mode maybe isn't the best. Maybe it's leaning on the one that you were good at and then maybe practicing mirror matches, right? Because mirror mode in game is, we're doing like the friendly battle mirror mode. So there's preset decks, it's not like we're going to throw random 8 cards at you. So maybe practicing mirror mode is a thing. Like you said, what is it that I need to do to keep alive? Traditionally, I'll just use this as an example because it's a deck we talk a lot about. Players see it a lot on ladder. Actually, yeah, there's 2 of them. So we'll go with the Magic Archer Wall Breakers deck. One of the first thing with that is like, you got to keep your Magic Archer alive, right? You got to keep your Magic Archer alive is pretty obvious. But then when we watched Mo play a mirror matchup, it was about, where do I make my opponent waste elixir? What kind of pushes can I do? I know how you have to defend. So what kind of pushes can I do to make you overspend? That's the other great thing, because you have all the information at your disposal. Another one is like 2.6. 2.6 is a deck that I've never really played a lot, but obviously there's tons of players out there. And I remember talking to some of the best players in the world in a 2.6 mirror matchup. They were saying a lot of it is like on your ice golem, which is something that I would have never thought of. I think it actually might have even been you that told me that, AC.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, those kind of matchups are always really cool, because there's always just something you wouldn't have expected is going to be the way to win, and it's always fun trying to figure that out.
So Kamagod going to definitely be trying to figure that out, as Mohamed Light is coming in hot and heavy. 2 sets of Roiled Hogs, 2 Firecrackers already on the board, tons of damage in, and no response yet from Kamagod, who does get a Monk down, but that Ice Spirit going to put in some work.
And there we go, Kamagod's Monk finally activating, and that way he's able to take out the Firecrackers, but not before they've done just a massive amount of work, and he still hasn't been able to take out the Firecracker. It is just staying alive right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been on his back foot this entire time. The only time that you saw anything really come to life here for Kamagod was just every time this Monk ability has come down. That's actually a great Monk ability. Yes, Mo does get a King Tower activation, but now that Firecracker should just be able to get Barb barreled on top of. You don't need the extra swing from the Barb.
Yeah, right here, I mean, he is struggling again. The Royal Hogs should make it to the tower and clean it up for the most part. Getting the tower all the way down to 506, so tough spot right now for Kamagod, and he just absolutely do nothing. Mohamed Light is applying so much pressure.
Yeah, finally that Monk ability activates again as this Royal Giant's coming across the bridge. 2 Royal Giants on the side of Mo Light. Lightning comes in to clean up that bomb tower, and now Kamagod actually has a really good push here, AC. He's got a Bar Barrel in tow with 2 Fishermen.
Yeah, this is a massive push, but it does get cleaned up by the Firecracker. 110 left, so there's still plenty of time for Kamagod to continue to make pushes and actually take out the tower.
Very little elixir in the tank for Kamagod right now to deal with this push. He's going to have to make something happen, and very quickly. 210 remains. Poison will do it along with the log, so Mo Light going to pick up game number 1 pretty easily. And I got to say, man, one of the more surprising things about this game is that Kamagod had the Monk, and he didn't seem to be able to really make it relevant against the Firecracker. It was always after the Firecracker had gotten a ton of value, then the Monk ability would pop. And I don't know if it was just a timing thing or an Elixir thing or a Mo Light thing. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, what interested me in this matchup is the fact that it felt like we were 20 seconds into the game and he had already set up multiple pushes. Yeah. I don't know how he was able to get as aggressive as he was, but that's the reason why he won the game. He had, I mean, I don't know if he was ever able to get the third firecracker up in time, but he had 3 firecrackers cycled, or as they were dying, another one was up within the first minute. That's impossible to detect.
Yeah, 2 on the left side of the board, and then an evolved one already out once the 2 were taken down. So, as you can see there, big shout out to our graphics team. Molite picks up game 1. Not only do you get the red for which side of the screen he's on, but you also get the little droplet there to let you know that that was triple Elixir, which is a big part of why Mohamed Light was able to be so aggressive early on. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly what it was, because Mo comes in really heavy with the Royal Hogs, and it feels like just with the deck that Kamagod had, he had to keep overspending defensively early, and then there was really no way to get on top of that Firecracker, right? You got Bar Barrel and you have Lightning. Firecracker being, you know, probably the most abused card in this tournament. It's hard to say between that and Royal Giant, but you understand why it was so difficult for Kamagod to get on top of that Firecracker. And then, as you said, AC, Molite just was able to exploit that from less than 1 minute in and just ride that train all the way to victory.
Yep, and now, I mean, here's the thing. You're not supposed to be able to beat Mohamed Light at his game mode. So, if anything, that game doesn't even really count. Kamagod can really have the thought process where it's like, all right, this is game 2. This is the one that I need to win. Let's do it, and then we'll figure out game 3. And game 3 is one that neither player has really practiced. So he's still, I mean, as much as it is Kamagod versus Mohamed Light, that's the main statement, he still does have.
Yeah, and then in that mirror match, you never know what you're going to get. You could get your comfort deck, right? You could get your deck or your style of you know, win condition, and your opponent could be less experienced with it. I think what you're saying is really interesting about, you know, if you are the second person or you're the person on the bottom of the screen, which means you're the 2 seed essentially, you should be okay with losing that first game. And that's a big part of the mental game of Clash Royale, right? We always talk about how great it is that Mohamed Light has been able to play through lower brackets and win tournaments. But that that idea translates all the way back to what you're saying right now, which is I'm okay losing the game mode I'm supposed to lose. Now it's about doing the thing that I'm good at when I need to do it. So we'll see if Kamagod can put it together here in sudden death mode. As you guys can see, 4 minutes and 28 seconds remaining, but it is all overtime. No surprise that Kamagod goes right back to what worked for him in his day of success with sudden death, which was this Royal Giant Lightning deck.
Mohamed Light on the other end, gonna go in with the Valk Hog push, a beautiful bar barrel from Kamagod, and that's gonna bring the Valk all the way back and allow the Fisherman to activate the tower. That was really well done by Kamagod.
Really nice, high, aggressive Archer Queen here from Mo Light, recognizing that the Monk would probably come down defensively, and AQ gets on top of that first Royal Giant. Now some sizzle from the Inferno to get on top of this RG.
Yeah, and with the Lightning's help, it will be able to get a shot on tower, but not more than 2 shots on top of the Crown Tower. So it kind of makes you think that it was a wasted Lightning, but I mean, that's what sudden death is all about, just spending as much elixir as possible to get a lick of game.
Yeah, and it's the first time that in this set the Kamagod has been in the lead. So if it's working, you don't need to change it. He's gonna probably take a couple shots here from the AQ and then figure out a way to defend on this left-hand side. Late Fisherman, there it is. That seems to be the name of the game, and I was just going to say he's got to be careful because Mo is not a person to let the same defense work over and over. 1723, 2293, some adjustments defensively needing to come Kamagod's way, but first, this offensive send.
Yeah, Kamagod panicked a little bit and used the skeletons as well. Right there, Inferno Tower cleaning it up nicely. What is Mohamed Light going to do? Does he have the Ice Spirit to retarget? He does, but not before the tower gets down to 13.
Kamagod back in the lead again, gives away a free Lightning to Mohamed Light, trying to pre-cycle that Phoenix. And then now an aggressive Archer Queen at the bridge. Mohamed Light innovating, gets the Monk out. Monk has to use its ability. Late Fisherman comes in. Lightning not going to be in hand for Mo.
Tower down to 1088. Kamagod should be able to have another RG up if he wants to. Goblins to protect the Valk. And that's a missed bar barrel. That's a huge mistake by Kamagod.
Inferno, though, not going to be on the board very long. A high Archer Queen distracted by the Ice Spirit, but is able to retarget the RG just in time. Gets one shot off still. 738, 1088. Archer Queen working towards the weaker lane.
And right there, he missed it again, I'm not sure why we're seeing so many mistakes from Kamagod with these placements of the bar barrel, but right there, he needs to clean that up. And there we go. Oh my, and he still misses one, but that's
yeah,
okay.
he misses one goblin. Maybe the push from the RG you could give him some credit for, but yeah, I agree.
Right.
The bar barrel play has not been on point for Kamagod.
Right here, going aggressive. Love to see that. That's what you have to do. The Fisherman is going to lock onto the goblins, though, and that's the
it.
game.
Wow. And you know exactly what happened there, right? And that's you got to give credit to Mohamed Light. Even that one lightning that he did, it made me think about it on the next push, and it just made Kamagod lose the game over it, right? So if we rewind and we go back a minute and a half ago, Mohamed Light got that lightning on the Fisherman, RG, and Princess Tower on the opposite side when he sent the Hog Rider down the left lane. He ends up getting a hit out of it. And that makes us both go, okay, Kamagod, you defended the same way twice. You got to readjust. So he starts to readjust, but then that gets misplacements. You know, the second time around, I was waiting for the lightning. Mo didn't pull the trigger. He kind of does that traditionally. He doesn't do the same thing over and over. And then the push after that, I think Kamagod was ready for the lightning to come down. He plays the Fisherman super high. Goblins to distract. Game over. Well played to the GOAT.
Yes, sir. Mohamed Light, I mean, it was pretty quick. And game number 2 was Hog. I'm trying to remember what game number 1 was.
For Mo?
Royal Hogs, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's just going quick cycle, but still trying to control the board. I love that for him, just because, I mean, we always tell the best players in the world, hey, we want you to just control the game. And so right there, game 1 and game 2, and especially in a foreign game mode, he didn't even play the tournament whatsoever. He was able to just control the board and dominate the game. That's what you need to do with the Mo.
One of the few times I've actually seen API be backwards, it looks like. I'm not sure. Or maybe actually the game hasn't updated yet. But game number 1, yeah, it was all about the Firecrackers and the Royal Hogs doing work. And then in game number 2, Mohamed Light, aggressive with the Hog Rider. The Fisherman was there and the Monk was there. That's the other thing, is you think, okay, I've got Monk, I can deal with the Archer Queen. I've got Lightning, I can deal with the Inferno. I've got Fisherman, I can deal with the Hog Rider, but not when you're playing against Mo. Every push kind of changed. You saw Hogs over the middle, Hogs on the left side, Hogs in the back early on, which I thought was kind of a weird but cool offensive push from Mohamed Light. And yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of how we expected this set to go. You know, it did feel like maybe the biggest underdog matchup against, you know, Kamagod being a relative unknown going up against the best player in the world. And when you talk about game modes, you don't have, I feel like Sudden Death and Triple Elixir are kind of the ones you have the least, or almost I'd say the most control over, which means that if you're someone like Kamagod, you're almost in a worse spot. So to kind of expand on that is when you have less control over something like Heist or Triple Draft, maybe you can get like a lucky spot against Mo. But when you're doing Sudden Death and Triple Elixir, you're just playing Clash Royale, like pretty standard Clash Royale.
Yes. I mean, it feels like Clash Royale. The other game modes don't even feel like Clash Royale whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. I mean, you're just trying to, you're just trying to increase variance and then allow for you to just win a 2080. So that's why just crazier game modes are going to be fun for those players. And yeah. Right now we have
variance. I like that, AC. It was good.
Yeah. Game number 2 is going to be Lucas and Tribe Wallace. So the game modes are going to be game 1 Heist and game 2 Triple Draft. And I think out of all the players, I think out of all the players in this tournament, Lucas has the biggest advantage when it comes to his game.
I agree. We felt that yesterday when we were watching the Heist qualifier. You kept saying it feels like Lucas has been practicing this mode. And not only did it feel like Lucas was practicing the mode before we got on broadcast, because he came ready to go with 2 great decks, but then as the broadcast went on, Lucas's gameplay evolved. He kept making small changes, 1 card out, 1 card in. And I remember us kind of both gushing over the fact that, he brought in E-Spirit at the end of the day. It was so weird, but, after you watch hours of Heist, you realize how impactful the skeletons and bats and witch skeletons were, the Mighty Miner and Inferno Dragon locking on tower. All of these things were so relevant and dominant that small change of the E-Spirit really just felt, masterclass in our minds. So I agree. I feel like because Heist is the most different from regular Clash Royale, and because Lucas was probably the most dominant in his respective group, this could be a very one-sided game number 1.
Right here, both players immediately going to Mighty Miner, Three Musketeers. It really feels like that's what, I mean, it feels like all the players figured out what the meta should be. And it's specifically those two cards. I think both of them are the most powerful. The Mighty Miner in single Elixir is going to be a very difficult card to stop. You only have so much Elixir that you can play on the board. And then on the other hand, I mean, Three Musketeers, you are trying to just cycle that as often as possible. You just get so much value.
Yeah, I think all the things you said are very correct there. The Mighty Miner ability in single Elixir to not only clean up splash troops with the bomb, but the ability to change lanes, right? So that means when you're playing defense against the Mighty Miner, you have to worry about dual lane pressure because you don't have a Princess Tower to clean it up when it's at a sliver of HP. So it looks like Wallace tuned into our broadcast yesterday, or at least went and looked at all of the games played and who won, because while he was not in our competition or did not go very far in Heist competition, I don't know if he was in the qualifiers or not, he seems to be running the correct deck.
Yeah, and right here, this is a very cool push from Lucas. Mighty Miner coming down the lane, especially with the Witch. That's a missed arrows from Wallace. And now this Witch is going to stay alive, and the Mighty Miner target. I mean, the bats are going to be able to clean it up, but not before. Okay, especially with...
Wow. 3 Elixir, ticking to 4. What does he have? He's got nothing. That's going to do it in game number 1, and exactly what we talked about, AC. Lucas taking just over 1,000 HP's worth of damage, takes the game from Wallace in what would be regulation time. Heist mode. Who would have thought that Lucas would be the best Heist player we've ever seen?
He does so many things right, and I mean, just capitalizes on every single opponent's mistake. I mean, one troop wasn't played correctly, or he knows that he doesn't have the right air targeting unit in cycle, and so he can pressure one lane, force out X amount of Elixir, and then he's not going to be able to get back to the 3M. He's so, I mean, he's thinking so much in a random game mode. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, it really does feel like one of those things where it's like you know, you played tennis your whole life and then you pick up like a pickleball racket and you're absolutely like the best in the world. You're like, I was always pretty good at tennis, but like for some reason in pickleball, I am just absolutely insane. And that feels very, very similar to the way Lucas plays Heist. It does feel like everyone's kind of playing checkers and he's playing chess. I mean, even that Mighty Miner ability at the end, you know, the push with the Witch and the Mighty Miner on the zappies, that you called out the missed arrows. That's a small mistake from Wallace. And then the Mighty Miner ability baits out the bats to get on top of the Mighty Miner because it resets. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why he's so good at it. But the way he thinks in Heist is something that is clearly very difficult to keep up with.
I would assume he loves the game mode. I feel like I can feel joy behind the way he plays. I'd like to assume that it's the type of game mode.
I do imagine him sitting there playing and kind of just like laughing, right? Just like having a good time, like, oh man, I can't believe that worked again, and all that. Because again, Wallace wasn't there in the top 8 yesterday, but you look at the deck that he built and he clearly watched. He clearly like had a plan,
right? But
it didn't matter. Lucas came out and just shut that plan down. So now we are doing the, what card could this possibly be? Yeah, this is triple draft. So as you guys know, when you spectate triple draft, to make things fair, you won't see the cards that are offered or the cards that they pick. So right now you're just kind of hanging out with Lucas and Wallace as they pick. It was Wallace who was able to come out in 2nd place behind trainer Adnan just last week in our triple draft competition. Super fun. I mean, both Wallace and Adnan were, I'd say, pretty neck and neck throughout the day. Obviously Adnan did come out on top, so you have to give him the slight edge. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing about triple draft that made the whole day a little bit more even in competition, AC, is that this is a mode that was toyed with to be at a competitive level. There was many global tournaments for this. This is a very popular game mode.
Yes, there were. I mean, the reason why it didn't become a staple inside the game is just because there's a few things that are wrong about it when it comes to trying to build a competitive community behind it. And one of those is just sometimes you can get unlucky with the win conditions. Yeah. So really, we can almost celebrate for a player when we see a win condition, because sometimes they're just not going to have it. They're only going to have the wall breakers, or they're only going to have the Mega Knight. Both of these players already showing that they have some strong win conditions behind them.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and you do call out the 2 cards, and this is kind of, you know, one of those moments when we were talking after the show, or maybe it was even on broadcast, where I was like, CAC, it's like you got that ex-pro mentality buried deep in your mind, all those like 10,000 plus hours of grinding, because I had to go online and like look at the way that Triple Draft breaks down win conditions, and there's a great post from Royale API on, I think, Reddit from like years ago. Even years ago, they had that exact same breakdown of certain cards being in win conditions that don't really belong there, like the 2 that you mentioned, Wall Breakers and Mega Knight. While they both are win conditions kind of in their own right, you need support when you get into double and triple elixirs. So yeah, a really great thing for you to point out. It is the main reason why Triple Draft never became like a true competitive format for years. But all that being said, a lot of practice and a lot of experience playing that mode for these pros.
And Luke is going to be able to activate the King Tower right here. So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what Lucas's last card is. You'd have to hope. I mean, you'd have to hope it's Graveyard, but obviously it can't be.
Yeah.
So it's maybe Skeleton Barrel. There's still a few opportunities for it to have a lot of synergy inside the deck.
And then for Wallace with Hog Rider, he doesn't have like the best support behind Hog Rider, but he still has Hog Rider, you know, and he has Cannon cards. So he has like 2 really strong cards, and Phoenix. It's like he's just got like a bunch of great cards. Will they all synergize together is the true question, but sometimes you don't really need it to with Hog. But his opponent having Freeze, NATO, and Mortar gonna make it pretty tough.
Yeah, Lucas is just able to throw mortars out on the board and then NATO the Hogs to the King Tower. And Wallace just has to figure out, I mean, he can't go opposite lane because then he just tornadoes, but he also has to take out the mortars, so he can't technically waste the cannon cards. It's just a very tough spot for him because all of his cards don't do enough.
Yeah. So Wallace still trying to figure out how to break through, and Lucas kind of has already cracked the code and is just like, all right, I'm going to do the same thing until I need to change things up. So you see here, Wallace goes in with the Hog plus Fisherman plus Earthquake. Ends up getting, you know, a little bit of Elixir out of it, but not a whole lot of damage. So both these players just trying to still figure things out as a Hog goes down the left-hand lane. A late NATO here from Lucas and a Dart Goblin to help do some damage. I mean, that King Tower is now getting pretty low. It's the 2nd lowest tower on the side of Lucas as a Mortar comes down.
Places the Fisherman just in time. Will the Fisherman lock out the Dart Goblin? So that's massive for Wallace right there. He needed an interaction to go his way. And he's now going to be able to get the Mortar out with the Earthquake. So what looked to be, I mean, incredibly deadly was actually stopped fairly well, but still locked him down.
And now Lucas, you can see kind of adjusting his play, just going hyper aggressive, just dropping everything at the bridge. A really nice high wizard to snipe that Dart Goblin and then now defend for this Hog Rider. And Mortar out of cycle, so you imagine a Freeze plus NATO? No, Freeze plus Guards will do the trick.
Yeah, cleans it up very nicely, 2670 to 2493. So Lucas has shown no big spell, and Wallace has the Earthquake. So at this point, Wallace is in full control. He can just Earthquake out and defend, and all of a sudden, Lucas goes from, oh, you know, Wallace can't get a shot to, well, Lucas didn't even need to, or Wallace didn't even need to get any shots on tower. He just needs to Earthquake.
Yeah, a really fascinating development here, especially at like the highest level. You talk about you being able to break that down on broadcast. You know Wallace has already kind of figured that out. 2288, now the lowest tower on the board. And Lucas, as you just said, man, completely in control for most of this game and now in trouble, but the shot comes through. What was that? Was that a bowler? Boulder?
Yeah. Both of the bowlers locked onto the tower because he cycled the Ice Spirit in the back. He didn't put the cannon cart in front, and he didn't protect it with any troops. And that's going to be game from cycling an Ice Spirit in the back.
That is absolutely nuts. Wallace getting punished with a one elixir cycle card going in the back. Bowlers pick up the targeting, 2 shots come in. And while we were breaking down why Lucas was in trouble, a gift from Wallace given to him steals that 2-0-2-0 to start our day. And, you know, again, this is why you and I have talked about we just did these videos for CRL, the forecasters, talking about who we thought was our favorite and dark horse pick to go through the leaderboard and golden ticket. And I think all of us kind of just didn't mention Lucas because we all expect him to be there. And I think we all expected someone else to pick him. But you watch his dominance today against someone as great as Wallace in Wallace's own game mode and in Heist, which Lucas did yesterday. And you just sit there and you go, when is he going to put it together for CRL? Which month is it going to be that he gets his golden ticket? Because he is exceptional.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if it was Lucas that was the player. There was... I think he might be one of the players that has gone 7-3 3 different times and wasn't able to qualify in any of them.
Wow.
There's a couple of those kind of players. And then really, Lucas, I mean, I think it was second monthly finals. He went 5-1 in the round of 32. But the bracket that he was in was with Muhammad Light, who also went 5-1. And then Muhammad Light beat him in the best of 3 to see who would actually qualify. So a lot of things have gone wrong for him, and that's the only reason why we're not seeing him just at the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a great rivalry in competitive Clash Royale. It's obviously two very good friends between Lucas and Muhammad Light, and Mo definitely has the accolades on his side. But when you look at their kind of, their friendship and their competitiveness with one another, and it does feel like Lucas is kind of chasing Mo, but I really do feel like they're in the exact same class of player. It's just hard to say anyone's better than Muhammad Light or as good as him right now. But I would put Lucas probably in a very close second or third, maybe in the world. This is a much larger conversation, which we get into later, but we do have our next game coming in just a minute. It's another triple draft game, which is why we're hopping in just in a second, because we were waiting for our players to pick at least most of their cards. So you guys can see Adnan top of your screen, Nikoko at the bottom, and we're going to kind of just flip the script of what we just did. We were going to be doing triple draft first and then Heist second. And even in their even in the clan chat, we just got some shared banter going on between Lucas and Muhammad Light. Lucas saying, Mo joined late, unfortunately you'll be disqualified, you can leave the clan. And then Mo Light saying, don't be scared, little bro, I'm gonna get first rounded right now. So a lot of fun going on between those two. We should see them match up, as you guys can see on the side of your screen. Mo Light versus Lucas in round number 2. That is going to be a blast. As you guys know, triple Elixir first, and then it will most likely be Heist following that. But let's get back into the action at hand. Adnan, top of your screen, Nikoko at the bottom. We're going to be going triple draft, Heist, and we still haven't gotten a mirror mode, AC. I'm a little disappointed.
That's right, actually. And so hopefully, I mean, yeah, hopefully we get one of those pretty soon. I love going fast on a day, but when there's one of these kind of game modes, I don't want to see fast. I want to see some action.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that lets you know that Royal Masters is doing something right. You and I aren't worried about our Sunday. We're worried about getting all the game modes in here. As a Goblin Giant runs into a Prince. Remember, this is triple draft. If you're wondering what these decks possibly are, well, they were chosen just before they hit play. So Hunter, Firecracker, Goblin Giant with Lightning, and then the bottom of your screen, Hog Rider Bats with Prince and Goblin Hut. Goblin Hut, not very popular anymore, but still a good card to pull, as this Hog Rider is basically undefended. I mean, a Firecracker, Fisherman, I guess maybe one card away, and then Hunter obviously out of cycles, so rough start for Adnan.
Yeah, you have to assume that Adnan probably could have done something different, but if he didn't have the Fire Spirit, then how is he going to take care of the bats? And it was actually a brilliant Firecracker from him. I cannot believe that we saw the Firecracker take care of all the bats. But it's not going to matter. I mean, Nikoko has a brilliant matchup against Adnan. He has the Inferno Dragon, he has the Prince, he has the Goblin Hut, and so it's impossible for Adnan to hit the tower in single Elixir.
Oh, wow. I was just going to say, I'm so curious to see what Adnan's last card is. It's something that can actually help him out. And also, wow, this is working. This push is working.
Yeah.
AC, help me.
I don't really think that should have been able to work. I think there were multiple opportunities to defend that better. And I'm pretty surprised to see the tower go down like that.
When you look at the cards that Nikoko has defensively, those barbs become like an incredibly frustrating card to deal with. you don't really have a way to get on top of them or get to them if there's a Goblin Giant up front, which is like fascinating. And then you think about getting on top of the Goblin Giant with the Inferno, it becomes really difficult when it's surrounded by barbs. So Adnan, I don't even know what to say. I'm so impressed with the fact that he was able to like decipher what he needed to do and then somehow has defended through. Oh, arrows come to take the tower, but so much on the board here, and Adnan knows that that is going to do it. AC, I know we don't have a replay, but can you help me figure out why that was so effective and why Adnan knew it was going to work, or do you think he just got lucky?
I think luck has to be a little bit of a factor that you have to talk about. But for the most part, it's just recognizing, hey, my opponent only has barbs, or my opponent only has the Inferno Dragon, the Prince, the Goblin Hut, and the Bats. So barbs should be able to put in a lot of work. And then he's scared about the lightning, so he has to put the Inferno Dragon high. But because of the barbs, he didn't really have that much elixir, so it was kind of a scare tactic that actually worked, I think. And at the end of the day, that push got through, and I did not see that coming.
I like that call about the lightning, so the Inferno has to be high. Then the Inferno's kind of out of place because you got the Goblin Giant working towards the hut, and the barbs are right there, kind of distracts the Inferno Dragon. And then, of course, the Prince, while the Prince is going to do a great job against any one of those 6 targets, but not the barbs and the Goblin Giant. And then you have Spear Goblins behind to boot. So, yeah, a Goblin Giant Firecracker Hunter deck with barbs that struggled horribly early on and then comes back and wins it with one push. And to give credit to Adnan, also like you said, man, a brilliant Firecracker that pretty much saved that tower early on.
Yeah.
A 3 elixir that defended 6 in a Hog Rider Bats push. So a fascinating turn, but you know, at least if you're Nakoko, you go, okay, I lost the game mode that I was probably potentially supposed to lose. Now let's get into Heist mode, where Nakoko, this is where things become really interesting, right? Because if you look at the broadcast yesterday, Nakoko did get kind of dominated by Lucas in the end, which is fine. Everyone got dominated by Lucas. Right. But when you go back and you look at the semifinals, Nakoko almost was given a gift by Dominic not deciding to reset his deck after game 2. And then he just struggled with a mirror match that lost game 2 in game 3. So, you know, this will be interesting to see if Nakoko is as dominant in this very rarely played game mode.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And right now, Adnan going in with the Witch, Skeletons, E-Spirit, and Zappy. So going all defense and the mirror. I always like the addition of the mirror, but then it's super difficult to add the 3 Musketeers as well. So you have to assume he doesn't have that in his deck.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really interesting call. The 3 Musketeers really were so dominant yesterday, and now Adnan piling everything up on the left-hand side. I wonder what Nakoko has for it. He no longer has the E-Giant in cycle, so he does go 3 Musketeers in the back. Mighty Miner going to drop its bomb, most likely. There it is, and then the splash from the Firecracker going to help clean things up. Not going to be towered down, AC, but not a very good start for Nakoko in his own game mode.
Yeah, Adnan doing a decent job of applying pressure, and it forced Nakoko into a really difficult spot, Witch on the right side to be able to clean up the Mighty Miner. And even with the Rage, the Witch is still going to clean that up nicely, so not a ton of value with it.
Elias saying, Lucas is actually a beast. He's easily a top 3 player in the world when he practices. Well, I think he's always practicing, honestly, but I do agree. I think he's probably top 3. He just needs to put it together for CRL. Nakoko trying to reset and now just dealing with this push. Skeleton's already piling up on that tower. Witch getting an insane amount of work. AC, that's going to do it. I mean, the E-Giant's too far away. He goes Miner in the back here. And even if this isn't the safe down, I don't understand how he comes back from it. And that's it. Yeah, Mighty Miner on top, going to clean up those bats. NATO comes in late, and a beautiful, beautiful 2-0 by Adnan, and it has been a dominant day, man. Absolutely dominant.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to have the advantage in your matchup, but it almost feels like these game 2s are, I don't know. Adnan just dominated throughout that entire set, and yeah, Nakoko was just never able to really figure it out. Even though he did it fairly well, it just felt like when somebody actually knew what they were doing, he didn't really stand a chance in that game.
It always seems like the macro of Adnan is insane. Like, it always just seems like that's one of the things that he understands better than anyone else, which is why I think he was so dominant in every time we've seen him play triple draft. It's not only the idea of these are the cards that you've shown, but it feels like he understands the game mode of, okay, these are the cards that are available as win conditions, these are the utility ones, and these are the air support. So if you have these cards, that means this is what you have to defend. So I'm going to exploit that. And that worked really well in triple draft. And then you go over to Heist, and I don't know. It just felt like he picked the correct deck based off of what we saw yesterday. And then again, just took that macro understanding of a matchup and just completely abused it. So Nikoko eliminated, Wallace eliminated, and Kamagod all eliminated. Our three favorites have stayed in the three favorite spots in Mo, Lucas, and Adnan, all going 2-0 or 6-0 on the day combined. We'll see if Pedro can keep that trend going against Over. Reminder, Over came from triple draft. Pedro came from our sudden death. So that's going to be in the opposite order. We're going to start with sudden death, then go into triple elixir, and then maybe, just maybe, if we get to game 3, we will finally see a mirror mode. I'd say the most even match in our round 1 AC was Lucas and Wallace, at least on paper. It feels like Pedro and Over is probably number 2.
Yeah, Pedro and Over, Adnan and Nikoko.
I mean, maybe Adnan and Nikoko because Nikoko had Heist, but I don't know. That's just where I'm at. Doesn't mean it's true, but that's just my thought, is that it maybe is Pedro and Over.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean towards that as well, especially because, yeah, I think I would have to lean towards that. Over definitely did fairly well in the competitions, and so he should match up fairly nicely.
So Over with Sudden Death, gonna go in with Graveyard. Monk ability comes in. Nice Monk ability there to tank for that Graveyard. Ends up getting a good amount out of it. A lot of red on the board for this counter push. Some of it cleaned up though with that poison.
RG coming down the board. Pedro has a lot of troops up. Is he going to be able to go in with the Fireball?
Oh,
okay,
man.
Fireball on top of the tower, and Over only has 1 Elixir.
Dato's everything back, and, you know, Over did a decent job there for a minute, but this Lumberjack going to get a few swings in. Maybe 3, it does. Plus the drop there, 1140 to 1937.
Well, and the craziest thing about this is I'm pretty sure he already has the Royal Giant Evolution ready to go. So he's up on damage, and he has that. But also, the other thing is, this is sudden death, so you only need to get the tower. You don't have to worry about the counter. Over still has a shot.
What a great high Inferno to snipe that Monk off the board. Now Fireball plus Barb Barrel to help clean up those Evoed Barbs. A really good job by Over dealing with a lot from Pedro. 1937 to 1140 in the left-hand lane.
3:25 left. Both players had an early start to the game and have been defending ever since. Baby Dragon will be able to clean up the Fisherman in time and not be able to cross the bridge, but the offensive Inferno Tower from Pedro getting a ton of value.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 in a row. It's so cool to see, you know, him play that Inferno so aggressively, and now we go Fireball early on so the Monk doesn't have time to activate its ability. And this is back in the spot that gave Pedro trouble earlier. Fisherman up front, Lumberjack behind, and an E-Spirit to help clean up everything in the middle. And a missed poison? No, a high poison, because everything's going to be coming across the bridge.
Wow, and still placing Inferno Tower into the poison, so I guess Pedro just believes that it's that important to dominate the board, but I feel like you could just play it a little bit slower. It didn't seem like you needed to place it right there.
It is interesting though, AC. It did shy Over enough away from the left-hand side. That Inferno, he just starts to set up a push on the right-hand side. So now dual lane pressure from Pedro, and this Evoed RG putting in a little bit of work on the left-hand side.
Evoed RG gonna get 1 shot, get the tower down to 833. Phoenix takes out the Ice Wiz, and will he be able to protect the Phoenix Egg? Not gonna happen, but that offensive Fireball will apply more pressure to the tower.
Yeah, every single time you're seeing Pedro go Bar Barrel Fireball on top of those Barbarians, but it's leaving his spell power a little bit weak in other spots. So here we go, Over back across the bridge. It's been a little while since he's been across the bridge, but he's not going to pull the trigger on the Graveyard. He's got a lot of blue on the board coming across the left-hand side, but he goes GY on the right, a little bit of a swerve.
Yeah,
I like that play.
2 Dragons on the left, and then tons of skeletons on the right.
Oh, the Barb's on the tower. That's going to do it, AC. Oh, it pushes the Barb off. 319, 775. The lane change from Over evens things up and gives him the lead.
Poison NATO won't be enough. I love the RG at the bridge. You have to apply pressure. One poison plus NATO will take out the tower now if you are Over.
Oh man, Graveyard in on the right-hand side, baits out a ton of Elixir, and AC, he's doing exactly what you're talking about. Poison in, just needs to get the NATO down. Baby Dragon and Brawler on the left-hand side. Whoo, Over, coming back, taking the game, and the most important thing, he's taken the game mode from his opponent.
And the way that start was played, it was, if Pedro would have won, it would have been, oh, Pedro had a hard counter. He started off the game well and just dominated. But that game, I mean, that required serious patience from Over and complete understanding of the matchup. Hey, I gave a ton of damage up, but I can still have the opportunity to swap lane. I still have the opportunity to defend, and find the right counter push. He didn't panic. He didn't struggle whatsoever, and he just recognized and took what the opponent gave him.
Patience, yeah, definitely. Great use of the word patience, right? Because it was that split barbs in the middle that gave 3 barbs to the left and then 2 to the right, and that made Pedro have to fireball the left-hand side. And not only the patience, but also just the wherewithal. Like you said, he understood the matchup. He switches lanes, and all of a sudden, Pedro has nothing in the tank to defend against that Graveyard. And, you know, we've said it for 6 years now. Graveyard can steal a game in one push, and just like that, all of a sudden, you can see Pedro playing a little bit more scared. It was crazy to see the momentum shift in like 10 seconds of gameplay, but an exceptional win from Over. It's the first time we've seen the underdog win a game today. I mean, that's the first time the second seed has won a game today. Everything has been 6-0. So not only does Over win a game, the first person in the 2 seed spot, but he also takes sudden death mode from Pedro. Now we go to Over's playground, and we're in triple Elixir. So very curious. Again, I do think sudden death and triple Elixir is the most, it translates the most from regular gameplay as opposed to draft and heist. So we'll see. We'll see if Over can really take this and run with it.
Over going in the air with the lava Inferno Dragon flying machine and lightning. Okay, I was surprised to see him fireball the Inferno Dragon, and now that question is answered why. But the Inferno Dragon from Pedro, the second one cycled out and gonna take out the lava.
Unix saying Over didn't choke. No, he did not. I don't even really think Pedro choked. I just think that Over played really, really well, as Pedro now having Graveyard at his disposal, and as you said, AC, Over going to the sky. Skeleton King piling up on this left-hand side.
Inferno Dragon locks onto the correct group. It locks onto the Skeleton King, but all the skeletons will spawn and forces out the fireball. The problem with Over's deck is that while it's very strong in a lot of different matchups, you have 3 spells. Even your small spell is still 3 elixir, so you get into a lot of difficult situations.
Fireball in again on this left-hand side and already towered down as, I mean, almost towered down in both lanes here for Pedro. So we're going to do a bit of a flip-flop here where Pedro's going to take Over's game mode most likely. We still have a minute and a half, but as you look at the board, Pedro really controlling it.
Yeah, potentially able to set up with another lava, but, I mean, he knew his opponent had to defend some way. And so right there, Over really should have taken the opportunity to just reset, play the lava low. He's playing way too fast, and he does not have the deck that.
And there you go, Over going, okay, I guess we're going to a mirror battle. And this is where I think the scales tip back in favor of Pedro. I do think Pedro probably has a bit of a better understanding of the macro and the mirror gameplay in general. But that being said, maybe Over gets his comfort deck. Who knows? As we're finally going to make it to game number 3. Pedro loses his game mode in sudden death, but is able to take Over's in triple elixir. And now we finally go to a mirror battle. So mirror battle, first you got to see what cards you get, right? That's the first thing. And then you really quickly, after you see what deck it is, you have to think, okay, just like you said, AC, what's the X factor in this deck? And then once the gameplay starts, you got to adjust to how your opponent plays. So I'm really excited to see mirror. I don't know if I've ever like cast mirror matches that other than like when it happens in a duel mode or something like that.
Huh. Oh, well, actually, yeah, I never even thought about that. But yeah, this is going to be the first time that I as well cast an actual mirror friendly battle. So very excited about that. But what I'm most excited about is the fact, they don't have to make any decks, so we can just go straight into game number 3.
I know, I love it. So here we go, mirror mode. First time on the day. One of the coolest things here about Royale Masters. And if you see a bomber, probably going to be E-Giant, but we'll see.
E-Spirit cycled from Pedro over, just delaying everything. E-Spirit in the back. It's actually going to provide no value whatsoever because the bomb splash takes it out.
And both these players just trying to figure it out. Over having triple spell last game. Didn't work. And obviously now that we're in a mirror mode, I doubt there's any triple spells coming your way.
This is kind of what I expected, though.
Yeah.
The first couple minutes, just, I mean, unless you have a very aggressive deck or no defense or only defense, it just feels like most games are going to start off very slow while you figure it out.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are seeing. It is an E-Giant, an aggressive E-Giant at the bridge. And now a Goblin Cage plus Bomber going to come out defensively, so it should be a relatively easy cleanup for Pedro, but Over is getting some decent poison damage in.
It strikes me as odd to go in with the E-Giant push after you've wasted the Miner, because then you can't take out the Bomber with it, and either the Bomber gets a lot of value, or if you waste a poison, then the Zap that will come into play right after are going to get a lot of value.
So AC, I don't know if it's too early or not, because I'm, you know, mirror mode and me and just Clash Royale in general. But is Miner kind of the card that we're looking at here as the X factor? Is there something else that is popping out to you? Maybe the Goblin Cage need to be the most important card. What is the card that you either exploit or must always, I think what you said was always have on the board?
Yeah, I think the card that you really want to exploit is going to be the Miner. You have to figure out if you need to go full on Miner Poison Chip, or if you have to take out troops, or try and take out just the E-Giant in general. So the Miner, I believe, is going to be the card that you really want to watch out for.
And it's Mirror, so Mirror E-Giant with Miner as Miner goes to the cage to try to get that E-Giant on the tower. Mirrored Zappies come out defensively here for Pedro, and poison damage in for Over on the left-hand side as this E-Giant gets a little bit of zap on the right. 2357 to 2112 in this Mirror matchup.
Yeah, I'd love to see Pedro get very aggressive right here. He has a lot coming down the right lane, and he should have the Elixir to go in. That's exactly what we're going to see. Brawler will come down to help out as well.
Yeah, Miner goes to get on top of the Bomber and actually is able to pick off the Bomber, even though the Zappy's there and the Brawler comes in. Now another mirrored Miner comes down, so AC, Pedro recognizing maybe the same thing as us, going that Miner is the X factor in this mirror matchup, gets two of them on the board, and the Brawler sneaks on top of the tower.
Yeah, massive play for Pedro. Now he has a huge lead and no building in cycle, so if he wants to have a second building, he's gonna have to use the mirror on, which he does. Shockingly enough, I did not think he was gonna use the mirror on the Goblin.
Do you think that's a good play or no?
I think it's okay, but if you're gonna place all the troops inside the poison, I mean, then it becomes really, really poor. He can't defend these kind of pushes with that much fun.
The mirrored poison plus the Miner, and this is pretty much all sewn up. Pedro really doing a great job, AC, of just recognizing exactly what you talked about at the top of the show. What's the card I need to protect, or what's the card I need to abuse? Pedro kind of did all of them, right? He really abused the Miner, he really abused Mirror and the Zappies, and then even the double poisons coming down. I mean, Pedro kind of did all things correct, and this is one of those situations where you look at Over and it feels like he just didn't know what to do basically ever in that mirror matchup.
Yeah, that was a beautiful game from Pedro. I mean, start to finish, he just recognized it early on, and it really makes me feel good because I said the Miner, and I was pretty sure it was the Miner, but then he started mirroring it, and I was like, okay, yes, I do have it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, I almost want to do you one better and say it was actually the mirror, right? The mirrored Zappies, the mirrored poisons, the mirrored Miners, that feels like the card that Over just couldn't figure out. You know, he mirrored the cage, and we were both like, I guess that's the right play,
right?
But I don't know.
I actually agree with that assessment. Unfortunately, it takes away a lot from me. But I like your answer better. I think the mirror is the reason why I won that game.
I mean, who knows? We'll see if it was more damage from the miner or the mirrored poisons. But either way, Pedro stays alive. Let's take a look at our bracket to see we're roughly halfway through our day. Remember, best of 3 single elimination, but when we get to the finals, it is going to be a best of 5. More details on that when we get there. But we've got a lot of really fun matches coming your way. Molite versus Lucas, Adnan versus Pedro. The loser of those 2 matches will be playing in our 3rd place matchup, and of course, the winner will be battling it out in our best of 5 championship here at Royale Masters Summer Clash Edition. A lot more fun coming your way. Do not move a muscle. Myself and AC will be here to walk you through the rest of our day. Remember, Heist, Triple Draft, Triple Elixir, Sudden Death, and we just saw it for the first time, Mirror Mode. A lot more of that in just a minute. We'll see you on the other side. welcome back to Summer Clash Edition here at Royale Masters. We've had a lot of fun. It's been the favorites who have been dominating here today. We did get one mirror match right before our break, which was a lot of fun. But now we're going into the top 4 players here, AC, who are still trying to stay alive. Mo Light versus Lucas is up next, and then we have Adnan and Pedro. So 4 very, very good players in Clash Royale. AC, this one is, some people in the chat are calling it the quote-unquote real championship. I don't think I agree with that because it is Royale Masters and because game modes can really decide who's going to be the favorite. But this one's going to be fun. Mo and Lucas means triple Elixir and Heist mode. What are your thoughts as we are about to get into this very fun semifinals matchup?
Yeah, I've never really enjoyed the, this is the real championship kind of comments, because I mean you're gonna see those kind of comments everywhere. Really, I think you can just dumb it down to this is the matchup of the day, and it truly is.
Yes.
Both of these players are so talented. Lucas with raw talent, but then I mean just abilities to be incredible in Heist, and then Mo Light, nothing literally can be said about him that hasn't been said already. So both of these players are just so phenomenal. But really, it comes down to the game modes. I think that's where you draw the line for these players. And Heist, Lucas has such a big advantage over Muhammad Light, which Muhammad Light is what? Triple Elixir. So,
yeah,
I mean, he's not really going to have an advantage in the game mode.
Right, you would think he has maybe a small one just because he played more of it this last week, but I agree. When you look at the way that Lucas dominated Heist all day yesterday, in his matchup earlier today, I don't know when the last time is that Muhammad Light played Heist. I'm sure he practiced thinking that he would have to get there, probably thinking that he'd end up playing Lucas as the players saw the brackets yesterday and were able to maybe speculate who they might run into in round 2 or in the championship. You'd think that Mo maybe got some practice in, but I agree. When you talk about the weight of favoritism for game mode, it does feel like it's really heavily in Lucas's favor. So there might actually be a situation here where Mo feels like the underdog in game number 2, which is, I can't believe I even said that sentence. But first, we're in Triple Elixir game 1 here. Lucas, bottom of your screen, Mo Light at the top, Inferno's out in both directions, and a Golden Knight. So Mo Light maybe going to try to get some fancy NATO work, as Lucas's Inferno Dragon going to try to put in some work on this E-Giant.
Lightning going to come down and be able to take care of the bomb tower, but not before everything gets cleaned up. No, I mean, the Golden Knight on top of the tower and the Inferno Dragon still fully alive. Both players finally getting the reset that, I mean, right there, Muhammad Light wasn't really looking for the reset, but Lucas finally gets the reset that
yeah, down by about 1,200 already and pretty even in Elixir and what's on the board. Mo Light with a really great NATO play to get that Golden Knight on top of the tower. Now it's Lucas's turn to get on offense, but that NATO pulls everything together, and that push dies on the vine as the Golden Knight connects again, and now Muhammad Light abusing his game mode.
Lucas immediately recognizing that he has to switch this up. He has to go up the lanes. Marvels are going to come down, actually get a lot of value. Inferno Dragon alive, and they will get the Electro Giant just a little bit lower in health.
So Miner goes right in front of the Lava Hound. I don't know if maybe the Miner was trying to get on top of the Lightning and maybe bait out, or not bait out, but soak up one of the charges from the Lightning. Not exactly sure there what the idea was, but either way, you look at Mo's NATO, arrows, and E-Giant work, and Lucas knows there's just no way to play through this matchup at this point. That Inferno Dragon putting work in on his Lava, the Bomb Tower able to pull it into the middle, the NATO plus arrows to be able to clean everything up with the splash damage of the E-Giant, all things going well for Momo.
I'm Lucas' coach at this point. All I'm telling him is, hey, Luke, please get some damage on top of the tower. You do not want to get you do not want to have the game end with both towers at 30-52. So he's finally starting to set up a push, but I really just think the defensive Electric Giants are going to clean everything up. He will not be able to get damage from those, but finally gets damage on top of the tower.
Yeah, Lava Hound plus Miner getting a little bit of chip in, and that's really more of just, like you said, AC, a confidence thing if you're the coach going, just do not leave this game giving Muhammad Light a perfect shutout. That's not what you want going into game in number 2. So, you know, same verse, or what is it? What does Rich say? Second verse, same as the first. There we go. Got it. For Mohamed Light here in a dominant game number 1 in Triple Elixir. Now it's our turn to see if Lucas can do the same thing with Heist mode. Can he dominate as he has been in that game mode? We shall see. Momo, easy win in game 1.
Right there, somebody in the comments is talking about Lava Hound not being a great deck, and I kind of have to agree with that. It feels like a lot of these Lava Hound decks are just auto losing, and I wouldn't be shocked if we start to stray away from the Lava just kind of being the deck that people go to in these kind of situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We got a Gold there saying, why do they insist on playing garbage Lava Hound decks? And I don't know, right? Obviously, there's maybe something there that Lucas is seeing in his mind based off of what Mo has played in the past, or, you know, maybe he thought he was going to go Royal Giant, so you have the Barbs there, you have the Inferno. I'm not exactly sure, but, you know, Mohamed Light is someone that always does a good job of keeping people guessing, and I can't remember the last time that he ran E-Giant NATO with Golden Knight. I don't know if he did it at all on the day of his Triple Elixir competition, but as we've seen in CRL competitively, Mo is probably, I mean, it's hard to say because I say this about him with a lot of decks, but I'll just say this: he's one of the best in the world when it comes to that NATO Golden Knight combo of getting on top of Princess Towers. That Golden Knight got on top of that left-hand tower, I think, 2 times in its first 2 pushes.
Yeah, it's very unfair to say Mohamed Light is the best player in the world at X, because you can basically slot in any kind of archetype or win condition, and it just works. And there's irrefutable proof in some competition where he went 17-0 with that win condition. So yeah, I mean, Mohamed Light, it just seemed to work for him. He knew what he was doing. Golden Knight dashes, Electro Giants on defense, and the Lava just was so weak and feeble against that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think he was going for a snipe, and it just did not work out for him. I mean, Royal Giant honestly did seem like what it was. But here we go. Heist. This is the moment where it feels like Lucas is supposed to take charge. A nice early fireball, get on top of those minions. So it is a -1 trade, but gets some tower damage in as Skellies have to stop Skellies here. That one skeleton will be tended to by the Mighty Miner.
So the interesting thing about this matchup is that I'm fairly certain Lucas has not ran Fireball in any of his decks. So I think he's adjusting specifically for Mohamed right there, and that's a brilliant freeze. That's going to take it out completely.
Yeah, and this is a deck that looks pretty similar to one that Lucas ran, I think, in game number 2 yesterday of his opening set, having the freeze and arrows in, and I think the Witch was also there with the Mighty Miner. So Mohamed Light looking at what worked yesterday and goes, all right, let me try it out.
Skeleton's gonna take gonna tickle the tower just a little bit, but tower's still fairly healthy at 11-5, 3-5. Sparky coming down the right lane, and minions in response from Mohamed Light.
We saw a couple moments yesterday where Sparky and Three Musketeers were kind of interchanged with E-Giant decks in Heist, and, you know, it started to be that Three Musketeer was really the way to go as more players started spending time in the skies. But for Lucas in this matchup, pretty fortunate. You know, everything that Mo showed is on the ground so far other than those minions, and the minions can be cleaned up with a E-Giant and NATO or a Fireball or what have you. So we'll see how impactful the Sparky ends up being. Sparky going to get a shot on the tower, I believe. Minions come down right on top. But Mohamed Light now in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, if he can set himself up where the Mighty Miner can stay alive, he would have potentially had a chance to make something nice. But instead, that minion is going to clean it all up. And with 1 minute left before overtime, Mohamed Light took a lot of damage, but that should have been worse. It felt like that was the worst case scenario for Lucas, to only get the tower down to 87.
And a really nice NATO Fireball, and now we know, AC, why that Fireball is in the deck, right? We talked yesterday about the lightning and, you know, how hard it was to kind of get those lightnings off. And then when we did see the NATO Fireball as an option, we were like, is that what you do every single time that Three Musketeers are dropped? And you can see here Lucas opting to do that, and we'll see how well it works out. So far, working out well.
Yeah, right here, Skeletons, in order to protect the Mighty Miner, do all of them get wiped off?
Yes.
So really unfortunate situation for Lucas, but Lucas I mean, he continues to impress. And when we talk about players going against Mohamed Light, we hype him up. We sometimes don't really believe in what we're saying. And right there, it felt like we should believe in Lucas in this game mode. And this is why. I mean, he is dominating throughout the first minute.
Yeah, and I really, really like the deck that he chose. It looked for Three Musketeers to be a problem. It assumed Mohamed Light wouldn't be up in the air. And right now, Lucas kind of just riding all of that great analysis to not victory yet, 84-51 to 11-5-3-5. Lucas in the lead by about 3K as Mohamed Light is trying to put together a push here. But a Sparky or an E-Giant on the left-hand side will be an easy cleanup for this push. He goes Sparky, now maybe an E-Giant up front? No, he just goes NATO to pull everything back.
Yeah, and it was pretty good recognition from Lucas because right there, it looked like the Musketeer might stay alive. So you had to be careful about how you NATO'd it. Yeah, I'm sure he was really just gauging on whether or not it was going to work out. I was pretty excited when the Musketeer actually died.
Yeah, really, really nice tornado there by Lucas, and another nice NATO fireball to clean up those Musketeers. So I really love this deck that Lucas is playing, and I'm sure Mohamed Light is probably a little frustrated by it. We shall see Mo putting together a little bit of a push here. And those Evo'd Skellies are just really trying to make something happen.
Yeah, we should see the NATO up, and this is a great job from Lucas to just move all the troops around the board. But right there, tower down to 7,300. Sparky helps out, but
these
now
freezes
Mo's back in the lead.
These freezes, the missed fireball, so now a minion on top of the tower has to drop bats on top of it, and Mo gets the predictive arrows on top of the bats. That's the only response. And now Lucas still has one minion to deal with, and he has to give out the well played, and that is why people call him the GOAT. I mean, just playing through a tough matchup, the cycle was absolutely nuts to get 2 freezes down. And Mohamed Light is going to do what no one could do yesterday, and he's going to 2-0 Lucas in Heist. Amazing.
Wow. I mean, really, throughout that entire match, I was prepping what I was going to say to hype up Lucas. And all of a sudden, Mohamed Light just comes from behind out of nowhere. 3 Musketeers on the board, putting in so much work. I mean, he has every response to Sparky, the Fireball NATO, the Mighty Miner Bomb. And it didn't matter the way he cycled and the way he set up his push.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the end here, the final moments on the replay, and just Mohamed Light's ability to really spread Lucas thin. And the predictive arrows on top of the bats, just really being right on top of the cycle. Then Lucas has to overspend on the NATO to pull the minions back. And then the Inferno Dragon has to come down out of cycle to clean up the last minion that's still alive. And that kind of sets up the end. Because I mean, there's just no way for Lucas to get any damage in. So I don't know. Those Evo'd barbs, when they get on top of tower, it's happened a few times over the last couple days, and it is crazy how fast they start to stack up damage, especially in heist mode when you have no princess or king shooting at them.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to give credit to the freezes as well, just because, I mean, that's how he was setting up those pushes. That's why those Evo'd bars were staying alive with 1.5 HP. The Sparky should, in theory, be an incredible card in that matchup, but because of the way he was setting up his pushes, he wasn't giving him enough time to set up a Sparky and defend. It was only, he was getting to 6 Elixir and doing Sparky, but Lucas had 10 Elixir, and so he was able to freeze always in time. So he just needed to gather more Elixir and defend different ways, because the Sparky wasn't the answer.
Yeah, it really wasn't. Mohamed Light doing incredible freeze work offensively, defensively, everywhere he needed it. Predictive arrows on top of the bats. You know, Lucas doing, I mean, that's the first heist game he lost, right? Did he?
Yes.
I don't know if he lost at all yesterday, right? Yeah, he was perfect on the day. And this is, again, one of those things that's just like, man, I thought Lucas was the best heist player I'd ever seen, and then Mohamed Light comes out in game number 1 and is able to beat him. I'd be curious to see if it was a BO3 or a BO5 of just heist, but, you know, when you only get one shot, Momo comes out and takes it from Lucas, so got to be a little bit frustrating there, and, You know, and also in game number 1, Mo did a really good job of going with the deck that Lucas, I don't think, was expecting. So that goes back to your coach and your analyst as Mohamed Light stays alive. And now it's all about Pedro and Adnan to see who is going to be the one that ends up facing Mo and who's the one that ends up facing Lucas. So I believe it will be Adnan first, his game mode first, which is triple draft, and then Pedro's is sudden death. Either way, yes, that is the order it's going to be in. And then if we do get to a mirror battle, we shall see. AC, only one set has gone the distance today. We'll see if this one is going to join it in a game 3.
And both of our players almost done drafting. Adnan up top. We're going to have Pedro on the bottom. Triple draft is the first game mode of the set.
I still don't love the Evo'd Skellies. I mean, it's tough because Lucas could have just had them work, and I would have been like, oh man, so brilliant. But I just don't love them still.
I mean, you just never get it. It just feels like a regular card, even with the evolution aspect to it. It just feels like you're never really getting that value. So it's just skeleton.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the challenge that's in the game mode right now that you can win a shard with, and you know the points. It's only happened a couple times where the skeletons in like 20 games that I played, it only happened like twice where the skeletons were actually like an X factor where they actually took the tower. And I have to admit, it does feel really cool when they pile up and they just can't be stopped. But, you know, that's 20 games that I played and only it happened twice. And those are also obviously like when you play those challenges, you run into people that are at like any trophy level as opposed to like, you know, an exponential growth in trophies. So yeah, I don't know. Just one of those things where I don't know what they need, but they're not where they should be yet.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of okay, maybe I shouldn't even say a lot. I think there's potential for there to be a deck that comes out where Evo'd skeletons are actually a factor in the deck, but it wouldn't shock me if we don't see that for a while. Because why would you look at anything other than the RG or the Fire?
I'm just looking again at this replay kind of in the background because it's just playing on my other monitor, and the freeze play from Mo Light in that last Heist game was absolutely nuts. Made Lucas miss a fireball, which set up that 2 minions, which that was all of it coming in. But anyway, here we go. Pedro and Adnan finally getting some good offense going on here from Adnan, who has barely touched the towers of Pedro. Skeletons, not really necessary, but you'd really rather drop them than take that Prince charge.
Yeah, there's such a thing as, oh my, a brilliant attempt from Pedro to try and take out the cards. That would have been unreal if you pulled that off.
That would have been one of the cooler predictive arrows that I've ever seen, but not quite where they needed to be. Adnan getting, you know, we'll call it lucky.
That was cool. That was a very neat play, and yeah,
and really what it was just the timing, right? Like he got the placement right. It was just that maybe he did it a half second too early because that one guard was still hit, but it just lost its shield.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. And right there, can he protect his tower? He can. Skeleton's coming out just in case, and that one was unnecessary. Royal Hogs coming down the lane with the help of the Earthquake. Will it even get one pick out on the tower? It does not. Power down to 14:33 as we hit OT 1:55 left.
Pedro's setting up with the Firecracker in the back. Remember, this is triple draft, so there are no evolved cards. Arrow's going to come out early, and then High Skelly's here to try to protect that Firecracker, which was really nice because now that Flying Machine should be a non-factor. And E-Dragon does clean it up, but not after Firecracker puts in a lot of work.
See, Pedro, I mean, because he put the Night so low, he was unable to protect his Firecracker. But really what I'm recognizing is that these defenses aren't necessarily too difficult for him. It looks like he's having an easy time. Now, when triple Elixir happens, that's where everything changes. That's where the easy pushes become difficult.
And this push, not going to have enough to take the tower, but going to get dangerously close. 464, Earthquake and Arrows are the spells that Pedro has, and the worst thing that he could do right now is to get excited about taking the win and just slowly get there. Slow and steady, and Pedro should have an easy game #1 win here as the Bomb Tower and the Electro Wizard add in that Firecracker, and it has been incredibly difficult for Adnan to break through. Although I do not love that high Electro Wizard. We'll see if he actually gets punished for it.
Right there. Okay, able to get the bomb tower back in cycle. Prince not going to make it to the tower.
Wow.
He was plus bomb tower. Will put it up nicely, but I don't disagree with the fact or how he defended it, especially because he's going to win the game. But those were some risky defenses, I would say.
Yeah, they got uncomfortably close, and now a lightning comes in, Ram Rider on the tower, Earthquake ticking away, and Adnan probably thinking he was getting a little bit close, but Pedro pulls the rug out from underneath him and takes game number 1, which, just a reminder for you guys, Pedro did not win in triple draft. It was sudden death. So that was actually Adnan's game mode that Adnan just dropped in game number 1. So now we go over to Pedro's, which is sudden death. So he should have a bit of an advantage. Yesterday he was, or 2 days ago, he was very, very good. I don't know, man. How'd you feel about that game? That was a fun one.
Yeah, Pedro recognized early on how to get damage, and so he was able to get a lot of early damage. But really, it comes down to if Adnan would have defended better and maybe not gone on offense, triple Elixir is when his deck would shine. He needed the Elixir to get the lightning pushes. Otherwise, the E-Wiz plus Bomb Tower was always going to be able to defend. So I think it comes down to, and we always celebrate Adnan for his macro gameplay, but right there, it wasn't very good. He should have recognized early on, I won't be able to break through until the very end.
Yeah, I think that's, expert analysis from you. I agree. It felt like every single time that Adnan was coming down with those pushes, he just needed a hair more Elixir to win the game. But, we were saying at the very end, Pedro was making those really dangerous defenses. Well, when you have a really dangerous defense over and over and over, and that just means you need a couple more Elixir to really punish them if that's the situation they're in. So, yeah, Adnan maybe just getting a little too excited, a little too early on, not willing to acknowledge the fact that he had 4 5 Elixir cards and 1 6 Elixir card in his deck, and just needed to slow play a little bit more.
And Adnan and Pedro could be running a fake mirror match, basically just hog versus hog. And I would assume that the quicker cycle and Pedro would have the advantage, especially because you have the Firecracker. But
Yeah.
Lightning can provide a lot of value if you just get one good Lightning.
That's right, 1 good Lightning and a Hog Rider on top of your tower, so this is going to be an interesting kind of mirror matchup as this Firecracker goes opposite lane. I really like that play, AC. That's a great predictive play from Pedro, going, I know where you're going to drop this building, whatever building it is, and I know I can get splash damage from it.
That is an insane play. So many different players are probably going to implement that into their own game. You just got 400 HP worth of damage by making that predictive play, and I don't even know if it really even needed to be predictive. So maybe you could do that reactively, but that is a crazy play to make on the big stage. What a move from Pedro.
Yeah, I'm just watching it again here as we're kind of watching like double action here, and he double drops it essentially. It's Hog. It's not like you have both cards hovering. It felt like he dropped the Hog and then immediately dropped the Firecracker opposite lane. A really awesome orchestrated push that, like you said, AC, I think other players, I'm going to steal it. I think other players will too.
Yeah, that was a very cool 2-5-3 left inside the game. And Pedro, I mean, he dominated game 1, and right now, Adnan has not been able to set up a push. Pedro is getting he's just playing too many troops at the bridge, and it's not allowing Adnan to actually set up a real push.
Yeah, and Pedro's high buildings, it's kind of been like his calling card in this competition. High Infernos, high Teslas, now a late Tesla to avoid the lightning, and then it gets dropped down low. So I guess in general, I should just chalk it up as building placement by Pedro has been incredible.
Yeah, his building placement has been great, and just the building timing as well, trying to delay it all and provide the most amount of value. Will he? I mean, he's not even going to need to set up with the Tesla because of the way he set up.
Firecracker Evolved going to come out as another Hog plus Ice Spirit goes down the right-hand lane. Then an Earthquake, now a late Inferno Tower up high. That's the way it's got to go because that Firecracker is just going to splash on through. Then nice high Skellies to get out that Archer Queen, and Pedro just has Adnan's number at the moment.
Going to be able to go Valk on top. Tesla should come down low, and that's what we are going to see. Needs to use the arrows for the Valk to be taken out completely, but 689 to 27. Still just has to defend, and eventually he'll get the Earthquake cycle on it.
Yeah, the defensive Earthquake even on that last push from Adnan. Pedro able to defend, and now Adnan just going, there's no way for me to break through this, man. I know I've got 80 more seconds, but it's just, how is it going to happen? Hog Rider on the tower with predictive arrows, Firecracker Splash coming on through, and that is going to do it. We have our two competitors. They've been here before in CRL. It's going to be Pedro going up against Mohamed Light in our finals, and our finals are going to be a lot of fun. It's a best of 5, and I'll talk you guys through how and who is going to pick those game modes in just a second. But first, we have to play our third place matchup between Adnan and Lucas. And, you know, I gotta say, we've seen a lot of dominance here today, AC, and that trend has not stopped in our semifinals. I mean, Lucas got a quick 0-2 against Mo, and then the same thing there for Adnan against Pedro. So Pedro and Mohamed Light, really the great, the top 2 from our combined championship so far.
Yeah, I think what I'm realizing is that Pedro, I mean, and this isn't to say that the community is doing it, but in my eyes, Pedro needs to be a lot higher. I always think, oh, you know, he's new to the competitive scene. He's going to be in that top 25 range inside the world. Yes, he's had ladder success. Yes, he has a golden ticket, but he hasn't proved it enough. And I think he's already proving it enough. There's enough competitions where I need to open up my own eyes and say, hey, maybe this guy is a top 3 player in the world, rivaling Mohamed Light in skill.
I think I agree with you. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because he didn't win the golden ticket. No one's won a golden ticket other than Mo. Exactly. I don't know if it's because he's newer to the scene, right? It still feels like he's on his way up. We started talking about him more last year, and then now this year it feels like he's someone who you can't avoid talking about. You watch him play, you watch the predictive plays that he had, like those arrows on the guards. I love that the mentality is there. I love that aggression. He reminds me of, honestly, the things that I love the most about Arden Toas last year. The hardest thing is, and Arden is kind of experiencing it right now, and there's a reason why people talk about the sophomore slump in sports. You go into a place that you've never been before, and it's easy for you to just, I'm going to play my game. I'm going to do all this crazy stuff. I'm the wild new rookie. But then when you start to get in more and more competitions and you run up against the best in the world, it starts to make you second guess yourself and make you maybe question some of the aggressive plays that you would have made. Pedro still has that like bright-eyed bushy-tailness of a rookie who's like, I'm just going to go for it, and then we'll see what I have to do defensively. I love where he's at right now, and I love that call, man. I do think, at least in this moment, he's a top 5 player in the world.
Yeah, and I really like the sophomore slump comparison, because with him, it feels like he shouldn't hit that. It feels like his predictive plays are predictive plays that just always work. They are consistently great plays, because a firecracker at the bridge left lane, you know your opponent has to defend the Inferno Tower. If you haven't made that play, you know he's going to just make that placement, because it's supposed to be fully protected. You're supposed to be able to make that play. So his predictions are very intelligent. And right now, Lucas has a mini push, 2 musket. Actually, no, this is a pretty big push. With the Mighty Miner on the left and the 2 Musketeers on the right, still healthy.
Yeah, Musketeers getting good damage in here on the right-hand side. Now a Witch finally coming out to clean stuff up. 7K remains as Lucas is back in charge of his Heist mode.
Witch to respond to the Mighty Miner, and he's actually going to respond with the Miner as well. I feel like he might have been able to delay right there, but if the Witch takes out the opposing Witch, then it's fully okay. If it doesn't, then yeah, I would have to say that Miner was taken, or was placed on the board a little prematurely.
So Free's going to come out. Doesn't actually help clean up that Witch. Lucas doing a good job defending the Witch. The Witch been one of the better cards in this game mode. Those skeletons piling up and having no Princess Tower to get on top has been very frustrating for a handful of players to deal with.
Wow. And that Witch takes the 2 Musketeers all the way down into Arrow's range. That is a massive play for Lucas, and with the help of the Miner, that 1 minion will stay alive.
Adnan kind of doing his traditional BM, laughing at Lucas, going, I don't know if you really need to send that Miner in front of the minions, but the Miner gets a couple shots in, and now an untouched tower has gotten the other one down to 6270.
Witch cycled in the back onto the right lane for Adnan. Both players playing very, very similar decks, and we actually saw Lucas stay away from the freeze. I forgot what set this was. I think it was the second set of the day. The other day where he went minor instead of freeze, and then in game number 2 he switched over to the freeze. So this version running the minor should not have the freeze as well.
But Adnan does decide to take the freeze, so probably looking at really Lucas's first 2 decks of the day yesterday, I think. And why not? Lucas was absolutely dominant yesterday as Adnan gets another set of 3 Musketeers down on the board. That's kind of the way to go. And Lucas seeing, all right, you don't have a big spell. Let me pile up here on the right-hand side. Minor in front of Barbs, in front of 2 Musketeers. So a freeze plus minions have to come down. Arrows on top of the minions, and now Adnan is in a ton of trouble.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that play because you're spending 7 Elixir with a card that can be arrowed off, so you know it's not going to get that much value. And Lucas just, I mean, his King Tower down to 11,000 HP, but Adnan's Tower now down to 4,500, almost on the dot. I mean, Lucas just, his 3 Musketeers are always getting value, and Adnan's just are not.
Yeah, the control of the board here, just kind of the way that he's orchestrating his pushes, it feels like Adnan is still trying to figure out what he's doing wrong, while Lucas has already known the whole entire game what he needs to do to win. So now Adnan doing what Lucas just did, piling up in front of these 2 Musketeers with, this time, Evoed Barbs, not a Minor, but a Mighty Minor. And now Evoed Barbs behind with a Mighty Minor bomb up front. And Lucas has to deal with this Mighty Minor on the tower. Minion's going to clean that up very easily.
Yeah, arrows to take out most of the troops, and that was actually brilliant defense from Lucas. Adnan having to give the well played because Lucas did not make any mistakes. He spaced out all his troops evenly. His Evoed Barbs compared the opposing Evoed Barbs. That was exactly what you wanted to see from Lucas.
1 Musketeer on the Witch, the other on the Skeletons, doing a bit of cleanup there. 3107 to 11K here as Adnan has 37 seconds to figure out how to put together a game-winning push. This is our 3rd place matchup, just a reminder for everyone watching.
Minor going down on top of the Musketeer. Right lane is going to get a ton of damage. Freeze coming out. And he's actually going to be able to catch every troop, so he should be able to defend this properly. But here's the thing. He has no counterattack.
Yeah, no counterattack, and he has a lot of red to deal with on the left side. So while he was able to stop the push on the right, this massive push on the left is going to do it. So Lucas back doing what you expected him to do in Heist mode. Really the only person, of course, Mohamed Light, the person to take a game off of Lucas in Heist. Now we go over to Triple Draft in just a moment for Adnan. I mean, I feel like we're a broken record when it comes to Lucas in Heist, but he just plays it so well.
Yeah, he's so methodical with all of his pushes, and he gets his opponents in such odd positions. You shouldn't freeze and then minions, especially when arrows are in cycle. But he had to do that because a lot of the time, the pushes were coming down the lane when he didn't have the Elixir for the 3 Musketeers, or they weren't in cycle, or the defense was for the 3 Musketeers, and so they're coming down the lane, and you know you're still 3 cards away. So it was just great recognition with his pushes and forcing his opponent into really tough spots.
Yeah, that's really what it is forcing your opponent into tough spots with your arrows, right? Because you're sitting there with, as Adnan, you're going, where do I use, with my minions, right? Because you're like, where do I use my minions? How do I make them effective on offense or on defense? And like you said, Lucas recognizing what he had available, how he'd be able to defend. And, you know, those pushes that he puts together, they're not on accident, piling all that stuff up, because you saw him do it and get a ton of damage on the right-hand side. And then you saw Adnan try to replicate it, but Lucas is like, yo, I just did that push. I know how to defend it. He goes Evoed Barbs up high, Mighty Miner down low, perfect sequencing on his defense, and, you know, just right back to what we expect. Now it's about if Adnan can do what he did so well in Triple Draft throughout most of the tournament, obviously struggling in his last set against Pedro.
That's right. And, I mean, Lucas has always been more impressive when it comes to micro, so maybe draft isn't really his strong suit. This could be a time where a matchup isn't supposed to have a strong advantage, and then it actually ends up being that way. So we'll have to see what Adnan cooks up when it comes to his actual drafting skills, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Adnan take game number 2.
And we're hopping into game now. The draft is over. And with Adnan, the impressive thing with him in Triple Draft has been able to kind of recognize, based off of maybe 6 or so cards that have been played by his opponent, and going, okay, I think I know what your win condition is. I think I know what the idea was behind the cards that I saw. I probably know what you picked. And we've seen him really abuse and exploit certain moments. And Adnan goes with the WoW as a high Mother Witch and an Ice Wizard on top of each other. So that is a really nice drop for that Mega Knight. But AC, this is the thing that you were talking about. Mega Knight is considered a win condition in Triple Draft. Will that punish Adnan later on? We shall see.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really liked how Adnan defended it. Going in with the MK, when you have the MK, you'll struggle on offense. But single Elixir is where you're going to get a lot of damage. But Lucas just has the right answer. The Electric Giant will pick all up nicely, and Adnan cannot afford to give up 3 damage. So now he has to worry about the poisons that are going to get consistently cycled whenever he plays the burn.
Yeah, perfect defense there from Lucas with the Ice Spirit timing and the poison. 29-36 to 28-28. Right-hand side of the board is where the action is taking place, at least thus far, as 1 minute and 30 seconds remains in regulation.
Even if Adnan only has a Skeleton Barrel, a Skeleton Barrel would be incredible for his deck. If he only has support troops, he will not be able to get past this defense. The Mother Witch, plus the Electro Giant, plus, okay, the Fireball will be very valuable to not allow the Mother Witch to start spawning.
So Cannon Cart goes off of its wheels, and that means the Zappies can get on top of the tower, so an E-Giant has to come down here for Lucas. Goblins right into an E-Giant, and then a Furnace to clean things up, and that just goes, okay, I'll take the poison again. Adnan says, well played. That time I feel like half the time he means it, and then the other half time he doesn't. So I feel like this is one of the times he didn't mean it, maybe thinking Lucas spent a little too much. We'll see if he can actually punish here, but AC, we talked about this from the very first day of Triple Draft. He just doesn't have a great way of getting damage on tower.
Yeah, and we're going to really have to see what Lucas's small spell is, because if it's NATO, that's going to be really, really helpful for his defense, but specifically his offense.
And right there you see that defense picture perfect from Lucas. 2497 though is the lowest tower, so Lucas is technically behind as Adnan sends out another well played.
Not going to use the Ice Spirit on the right side. I thought there was a little bit of potential to just do Baby Dragon plus Ice Spirit. Instead, he elects to go in, and we're just going to see another Furnace placed in the middle. Potentially, we haven't seen it just yet.
No, instead just does to defend with troops as an MK meets another set of barbs. And for Lucas, I mean, for Adnan, it's going to be about, you know, is there going to be a predictive fireball on top of those barbs, or does he just need to always save it for that Mother Witch? And as of right now, it's just been saved for the Mother Witch.
I love how Adnan is playing this, but really the problem is once it hits triple Elixir, who knows if he's going to be able to do anything. Great recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, Lucas does have the Tornado, and that Tornado is great because, I mean, potentially you're getting a ton of splash, but also you're taking out the Cannon Cart completely. You're automatically getting value no matter what.
And a nice use of his recognizing his cycle there. Low Mother Witch, then gets back around to the E-Giant up front. E-Giant not going to get any damage in, but the poison does tick away. 2050 now to 1992. Ice Wizard to tank for an MK leap, and now Barb's behind. So Lucas still playing well here, still having enough answers, but these defenses are starting to feel a little dicier.
Wow, and with 50 seconds left, both towers at 1992. Yeah. So just dead even as we head into this final minute of game.
So we see Adnan going in the left lane here, seeing what he can bait out, and then a fireball to the right. Lucas has to poison here at the bridge because of the pileup. And then now, AC, I think we do see, oh no, probably not the Furnace now, because the Furnace just gives too much value. So we're just going to go Zappies plus Cannon Cart.
Yeah, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to actually know the Electric Giant on top of the tower.
Oh, but the MK on top of the tower.
Wow.
Mega Knight on top of that right-hand tower as the E-Giant gets on top of the left, and now Lucas making a mistake here at the end. Adnan going to take game number 2, and we're going to our, I think, just our second mirror matchup of the day.
Yeah, that was a very cool draft from Adnan. You have to give all the credit to him through the draft. You look at his deck, it's Furnace, MK, Zappies. How do you get damage? But we saw it throughout the game. You consistently get chip when no one else is willing to. He did a left lane rush, forced out a defense poison, and just fireballed the tower. He didn't care that, you know, that's not going to get a ton of value. It got enough value for him.
Yeah, and you're getting all the troops that you need kind of out on the wrong side of the board if you're Lucas. So, you know, making his opponent kind of make mistakes or at least play the game that he wants is Adnan there in game number 2. You know, the whole time he was playing good. He was saying good game, or I mean, he was saying well played, and it felt like he was kind of BMing Lucas, but then at the same time, Lucas was like in charge for so long. But very similar to when we were talking a little bit ago about, I think it was Pedro, it never felt like Adnan was worried about losing, right? It always just felt like he still had something up his sleeve. Now, whether we thought that was going to work or not was something else to be told, but a really nice late game comeback, and now we get into a mirror matchup. Adnan already laughing. Maybe he's laughing at the deck that he got and that he loves it, or maybe he hates it. We shall see. Or maybe he's recognizing, oh, wow, this is one of the decks that Lucas is the best in the world with. So excited here to see. Looks like it could be bridge spam.
Lucas coming out with the Bandit at the bridge. Bandit for Adnan. Going to be just healthy enough to force out a response. And bats are going to come down for Lucas.
And very similar to our first game. And no, a bit of a change up here. We're seeing mirror again. Of course, it's mirror mode. And then it's looking like an MK spammy deck. MK Skelly Barrel, but with Bandit. And we see Lucas call good game already. And maybe that's because his Mega Knight is on. I don't really know what the idea of him calling good game is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And that's not really something we see from Lucas all that often as well. But Giant in the back for Adnan. How does Lucas want to respond? He's going to go in with the Electro Giant. So not going to kite with the Giant or do anything else. He's just going to use the Electro Giant right there.
Yeah, Electro Drag to defend here, and the Skeleton Barrel to stop everything in the back. As Bats plus the E-Dragon should do a decent job slowing down this Giant, but a mirrored E-Dragon up high, so maybe Adnan going, all right, I think the card that I want to abuse in this mirror matchup is the E-Dragon, and already Lucas is having troubles dealing with it. A high MK here to clean up the Skellies and a little bit of splash, but a Bandit connecting on the right-hand side for Lucas.
So one thing to recognize in a lot of these mirror battles is that you shouldn't really have the best spells ever a lot of the time. And right there, wow, the Electro Drag gets the shot right before it dies, so that way it retargets onto the bats. That is massive for him. But Adnan, I mean, he's going to defend this, use the MK most likely.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard for Luke to take out the tower with no spells to help out.
Agreed. I don't know how he's going to break on through, especially because the weaker tower is on the side of the board that he's working towards, and now a rocket comes out from Adnan. I don't hate the rocket play. I don't know if it was entirely necessary. Maybe he might wanted to save it for defense, but I don't think at this point he's too worried about it. With 25 seconds remaining and 1,000 HP remaining on that tower and high aggression coming in, that's going to do it. Lucas hangs up his phone. Adnan is our third place competitor in the Summer Clash Royale Masters Edition. Lucas will take 4th place, and now we just have our best of 5 championship. Adnan doing a great job there. I mean, I would love to talk to Lucas and go, what was it in your cycle that you noticed that you called good game out early? Because basically from that point on, it was over.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to see him say that and then have the game go the way it went, because it really did feel like he didn't even have the motivation to keep playing. And obviously we know that's not true for Lucas, but there was just something in it where he didn't really feel into it. And I think a lot of it comes down to Adnan early on recognized that Electro Drag was the right card to mirror. And it was. I mean, every time it was on the board, it was getting insane amounts of value, and it was just slowing the game down. I was surprised to see Lucas play it the way he did.
Yeah, I'm watching it back here, and it's right after a Skeleton Barrel drops from Adnan, and Lucas drops his MK down. And then Lucas just calls good game after Adnan drops his own MK down to deal with Lucas's. It's from that point on that the game is just downhill. So maybe it was just a cycle thing. Maybe Lucas was able to look at Adnan's cycle and go, your cycle is better than mine in this situation. I'm not sure, but knowing Lucas, he might actually tweet about it. Who knows? You know, he likes to tweet about stuff that happens. So maybe he'll kind of break down, like, you know, mirror mode or whatever it was in his hand. Who knows? Also, we could just send him a DM. But either way, Lucas will take 4th place. Adnan will take 3rd. And now we get to our championship between Pedro and Mo. So the way that this works is we will play game number 1 in Mohammed Light's game mode, which is triple Elixir. Then we will play game 2 in Pedro's game mode, which is sudden death. Then of the remaining 2 game modes, in Heist and in Triple Draft, Mohammed Light will pick his favorite of those game modes. So that gets us to game number 3. Then, if necessary in game 4, Pedro will pick the remaining last game mode that was not played in the prior 3 games. And then if we are still tied 2-2, we go to a 5th and final game, which will be another mirror matchup. So each player gets to play their favorite, then each player gets to decide which of the remaining game modes they want to play, and then if necessary, we will see another mirror matchup to close out the day. Guys, this is Royale Masters Summer Clash Edition. We are finally coming to the fruition of the competition, the end, the climax, if you will. We're about to crown our champion, give away a bunch more money, and if you guys ever want to be involved with anything Royale Masters, make sure you guys follow along on Twitter, on Discord, on Instagram, and of course subscribing here on YouTube or following over on Twitch. Hey, or subscribe on Twitch, why not? You can throw your Prime in there, no one's mad about that. We have King of the Hill coming later this month, July 26th, if you guys want to get in that competition. But Royale Masters has a lot more coming your way for the rest of the year. We're only halfway, a little bit over halfway through our year, so make sure you guys are doing and joining up with all things Royale Masters so that you can be in on these competitions and get your share of $20,000 and be here on broadcast with AC and myself. AC, we're here. We're in the finals. Pedro and Mohammed Light, once again, very different situation than at CRL. We have a lot of different game modes. It's tough because when we get to this spot, it's always like, well, what do you think's going to happen? Yeah. It's like, well, I think most people think one thing is going to happen, but I don't know. If you're Pedro, I've asked you this before, and it's a tough question, so you don't have to answer it, but like, what do you do? How do you beat Mo? You know, is there a way to do it?
You know, I have to assume that it's 85-15, that Mohammed Light wins it all, and in all likelihood, that's what happened. We're likely going to be celebrating his name. But the 15 is really cool because I think in terms of what it can do for the talk around your name is that if he wins this competition, regardless of it being other game modes or anything like that, you're still beating Mohammed Light, and you're still doing it in a mirror match potentially, or triple draft. There's still a lot of competitive aspects to it, obviously. So this is, I think, most of this just relies on what's going to happen to Pedro's name after this set.
Very, very interesting legacy building moment here for Pedro as Mohammed Light already gets good damage in on that left-hand side, and then luckily for Pedro, that bomb tower takes out the firecracker before it locks on top of the Royal Giant. And now a very, very high drill and an Inferno on the board. Very kind of interesting defense here from Mo, who does have enough Elixir to deal with the right-hand side as well, but he will take a couple shots on both lanes. And now this Evo'd RG is going to give him trouble. A drill comes down just in time.
Wow, and look at the RG go, getting the tower down to 24-28, getting another shot as well. We should still see another one, getting the tower down to 1507. Pedro getting a massive amount of damage. I'm shocked at the defense for Mohammed Light. It looked like he overextended, and he certainly did.
So a high Inferno to catch that bomb tower, but Pedro still has some nice defense there, 23-44 to 1507. Pedro taking a page out of Mohammed Light's book. Every time Mo's been in a triple Elixir game, he's gone incredibly aggressive early on, and while he kind of is doing that, Pedro is easily matching him in pace as a wall breaker connects on the left, and this Evo'd RG on the right, or excuse me, this RG on the right brings it down to 279.
Mighty Miner going to the left side, but the RG still locking onto the tower, getting it down to 1746, 1439. Brilliant offense from Pedro. And if you look at the left side of the game, it looks even, but then you have to look at the right side as well. Somehow, some way, Pedro has started off so strong in this set, and he should have the victory. but Muhammad Light is doing his absolute best to make it a game once again.
Yeah, nice fireball there from Mo to clear some space for that drill. Then a little bit of splash, I think, from the Evo'd Firecracker. Looks like 375 now to 279 as Muhammad Light starts to change directions here, recognizing that he needs to catch up with his opponent in the opposite lane. And he does a little bit of that catch up. 1122 to 2333 are the healthiest towers on the board. The lowest, though, is Muhammad Light's 279, which just gets lightning off.
Yeah, and I love what he did right there. He got a little bit of value for his spell, but really what you have to worry about is just...
Oh my gosh, AC! What? That Evo'd Firecracker just stole the game, and now out of nowhere, Pedro is down 2 towers and has 1100 HP to catch up on.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. That's it. I mean, that's game. As you can see, guys, Pedro not playing any other cards. Goes bomb tower down in the bottom corner. And when that push started, that tower was at 2133 HP. And Evo'd Firecracker at the bridge hits the first line of defense, which I think was skeletons, then gets on the bomb tower for a handful of shots. And by the time that that's over, 10 seconds later, the tower is gone. And that is why that Evo'd Firecracker is so busted.
It's killing me that all these players continue to rage in these RG decks. I think it has to be the Ghost Barbell Spirit variation at this point. We've seen too many times players run in with these Goblins and Wall Breakers decks where they continue to get value and you just can't stop it. I mean, that game should have been over. We should have seen Pedro walk away with a 1-0.
People going, oh my God, how did that happen in the chat? Just losing their mind. Firecracker has proven one of the 3 best Evos again. And yeah, Pedro just having trouble there at the very end. Muhammad Light, I mean, it's crazy now. We've seen a couple times. Pedro did it once, that really cool Hog Rider send on the right lane, and then the Evo'd Firecracker at the bridge in the left to get splash damage. That's a really cool push. The other one that we've just seen a lot that isn't very innovative is just something at the bridge and an Evo'd Firecracker behind, and that splash damage on the defensive units is absolutely brutal. I can't believe that game went the way it did.
It's just how it kills me to have Rage and Lightning as your only spells when the best card in the game is the Firecracker. You just won't be able to stop it.
So Pedro doesn't care what you have to say about Rage. He comes out with it again. Gets a couple shots in on that tower as Muhammad Light played a low fisherman, and now a bit of the same thing here for Pedro as that low fisherman's going to pull the RG in. Phoenix is right behind though to get on top of that fish boy. RG gets a couple shots and a defensive Rage comes down to get on top of this Egg and Lumberjack. Pedro's still in the lead by a hair. Now Mother Witch up high to even things up.
That was pretty special defense from Pedro. There was a lot of opportunities to mess that up. The Lumberjack coming in, but gets the Goblins out just in time. Defensive Rage. So solid defense from Pedro. He's going to go in with the RG at the bridge with the Rage to help. This is tower down if he doesn't choose to defend it more.
Yeah, I mean, both players going for what looks like a tower trade here. Pedro spends the extra little bit to get a fireball in, and now Muhammad Light steals it with 20 HP remaining in sudden death. My goodness, a dash to the finish that you would have missed if you blinked.
I think I did blink.
I was like, I think I might have blinked. I'm watching the replay here. We're at 1989. We're at 2131. Evo'd RG's both aggressive at the bridge. Pedro goes with his Rage early on, but the Phoenix from Muhammad Light and then the Lumberjack dropped by Mo get on top of that Royal Giant for just enough damage. Honestly, it's the fact that the Sliver HP Phoenix from Mo turned around and went and added some support to the Lumberjack to clean up that Royal Giant from Pedro, and now 24 HP. Momo wins game 2, and now we're going to a all-deciding game 3 here for Pedro, and it's going to be in whatever game mode Muhammad Light selects. AC, you haven't said a word since the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm trying to rewatch it right now, but then also provide insight to the next thing. I mean, that is incredible. I cannot believe 24 HP. Wow. It's been a while since we've seen that. And before we go into the game, I'm going to say Heist is my guess. And there we go.
Yeah,
Muhammad Light
it is.
choosing Heist for his game.
I love that. And Elias, yes, I know it was sudden death, but it was like a tower trade idea, right? It was the idea that I'm going to take your tower before me. We're going to spend more on offense than we do on defense. But then it was Momo's extra little bit of defensive spending. So maybe not the best choice of verbiage for me, but I think you knew what I meant.
Well, the hilarious thing is, my brain didn't recognize that it was sudden death. So I was watching everything and then the game was over. So, like,
Yeah,
for me,
right.
I was a bystander in that moment.
And I have seen those crazy, crazy games where towers fall at the exact same time, and it ends up being a 2-tower game when you're in sudden death. So, you know, crazier things have happened, but as of right now, Muhammad Light going back into the game mode that has served him very, very well. Pedro having to go up high with these barbs, has to wait for that second musketeer to walk a little bit closer so that the split actually happens. Had he played that earlier, the 5 barbs would have just walked to the right, and then that musketeer on the left would have needed to be dealt with.
And it's really cool. I mean, not only are we seeing the 3 Musketeers dominate, but we're also seeing the Witch dominate.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't get to see that very often. Witch cleaning up everything, has to use the skeletons in order to keep it 100% alive. But Muhammad Light with a good start, getting the tower all the way down to 9,880. And Minion's going to come on the board for Pedro to take out those barbs.
Yeah, very late arrows here from Momo to get on top of the Witch, the Heist safe itself, and obviously those minions. As a pretty healthy Mighty Miner and an untouched Witch are working down this left-hand side. Miner comes out to get on top of the Witch, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And now Mighty Miner, this might just be it here. Again, we see a pile up of the Skellies. Minions have to go over, and so minions are going to be enough. Arrows not back around in cycles mode, just ticks to 4. And now arrows come out as this Miner is just hanging out. Miner tanking for the Skelly, going to be tanking for the minions, and there's no arrows in hand, so now he has to go a high Witch.
Which plays perfectly, able to take out the minions and then the miner as well. The tower all the way down to 6,800, and Muhammad Light with another reset. 3 Musketeers, then the Witch to make it a 2-2 split. And then it's just, you know, pick and choose. How do you want to go on offense?
Get Josh a 3M bar, says Christoph Valentino. We definitely need to get you one. You love 3M more than anyone I know. And for someone asking, what's the winning prize for this tournament? Well, it's a lot of cash. We've got 20K in the pot from the beginning. Today we're giving away another 6,000 on top of it. These 2 guys battling for the lion's share in that. Momo up 2-0.
Evoed Barbs at the bridge. Musketeers still a little bit healthy, and that's all you need in this game mode without Tower's help. Miner going to come down, but that's not going to get a lot of value, which should be able to clean it up nicely and then start helping. But look at this push with the Evoed Barb.
I know, the Evoed Barbs, as soon as they get that swing and they get raged up, the Witch behind, now an Evo Barb on the tower. Arrow's going to come out from Momo. He's done it numerous times, and I think that could do it. Witch does come down, though. Looks like Pedro's got a little bit left in the tank.
And the brutal thing about this is that we say, like, oh, you know, is this the game? But really, even if he defends, it still is the game because he just set up another 3 Musketeers push going in with the barbs, not the Evoed ones, but still the barbs on the left lane. It's just so much pressure every time.
So much elixir is spent from Pedro to just defend. Just like you said, AC, every single time he's done defending, Momo is able to set up a great offensive push. And now we're seeing something that Pedro could actually turn into an offensive push. Can he support this? Muhammad Light sets up 3M in the back.
Mighty Miner should be placed directly on top and try and utilize that bomb. No, he's going to go in with arrows. I actually really like this Muhammad Light. He's going to allow the Musketeers to lock on to the tower instead of the troops because he knows he has such a big lead. He just has to stay away from the huge mistake.
Yeah, really, really great call there and great recognition by Muhammad Light going to sacrifice that 8 tower HP to get more on the board. One Larry on the left-hand side, ticking away at that tower. Arrows come in. Larry's still there. Pedro needs to spend something. He's at 6. Now he's at 7. Tower going down still, down to 666, down to 585, and he's hanging up his phone. That's going to do it.
That is hilarious. Gonna allow the Larry to take it completely out. 1,000 HP to 0. Muhammad Light with the 3 crown and 3 hero set. Muhammad Light, another victory, another champion.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the only way to chalk it up. Muhammad Light, for the last year, has just been on this glory golden run. It takes another win here. And I think we talked about this at the very beginning of this competition because Mo was there on day 1. What do you say if he can beat you in every game mode except for mirror, right? He didn't get to mirror mode today, right? We didn't see that from Mohamed Light because he was too busy winning everything else. We've seen him do it in literally every mode now. Sudden death, heist, triple draft, triple elixir, does not matter. CRL, duel modes, in-game duels, out-of-game duels, playing through the lower bracket in world finals, doesn't matter. It's Mo Light, baby. What are you going to do?
And we really saw another perfect run today. I think he went 7-0. I mean, what are you supposed to say to that? Your game mode, his game, every game mode was his game mode, and that shouldn't be happening. Those guys fought for their right to call it their own.
Sharir, I think is how you say your name. First of all, I love you too. Appreciate that. And then he says he did it for the content. Well, hey, if you haven't already subscribed to his channels or checked him out on Twitter, go and do it because hopefully we'll see some good content. And then for Royale Masters, I want to see that clip. I want to clip out that one Larry. That one Larry just putting in work. Let's take a look here at the bracket to remind you of the journey that Mo went on, and then we'll look at the money to see how much more he's taken home. He's taken home almost 70K already on the year, I think, maybe even more with his combined championships. AC, talk to me about the numbers. A lot of 2-0s and 3-0s at the top of our screen.
That's right. There was only 2 sets overall that even went the distance. That's going to be Cal Pedro against Over, and then Adnan versus Lucas for our 3rd place match. But every other game overall, it was Mohamed Light and Lucas and Pedro putting in a lot of work with a lot of 2-0s. Mohamed Light, though, 2-0 Kamagod, 2-0 Lucas, and 3-0 against Pedro. Pedro has not been able to get Mohamed Light's number, and Mohamed Light, again, another championship, another ring, another bracelet. Mohamed Light is just winning it all.
Yeah, and you talk about the money. I said it just a moment ago. $20,000 in the pot from the beginning. Mohamed Light was able to pick up $1,500 for getting first place the other day. Then you get to qualify for today. He gets another $1,800 on top of that. And you add that to what he's already done this year alone. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. $64,000 in the tank already just in 2023, and Mohamed Light has now cleared a cool $500,000 in prize money from Clash Royale. Whether it's CRL, Royale Masters, call it what you want, doesn't matter. Big shout out to Royale Masters for putting on one of the best events I think I've had the pleasure of casting in my entire career. I know you and I, AC, have had so much fun. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people watching, competing, or hosting this event before we say goodbye?
Well, I just want to say you are absolutely missing out if you are not trying to compete in one of these events. They throw them for a purpose, to get community interaction, to have you guys enjoy the game and love what you're doing. We saw so many of these competitors just actually find new game modes that they enjoyed. I knew that Mohamed Light was going to go heist in game 3 because it looked like he kind of figured it out. It looks like he was enjoying what he was doing. So we want to always see you. Thank you guys for watching. And again, I mean, I want to give another shout out to the staff behind the scenes. You guys have made everything so easy. Just do our job.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun here at Summer Clash. Again, Royale Masters Edition. We got Triple Elixir, Triple Draft, Sudden Death, Heist, and some mirror matches coming your way. A lot more Royale Masters for the rest of 2023. So go follow them on Twitter, go join the Discord, and of course, subscribe here on the YouTube channel. For Tasty Bacon, for Dawson, who was, Tasty does a lot for King of the Hill, and I know he's here helping as well, but it was Dawson who was at least the guy in our ears. So a big shout out to him for making this such a great broadcast. For all of you guys for joining us, and of course, to Mohamed Light for taking another championship here. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will catch you on July 26th for King of the Hill Royale Masters Edition. We'll see if Momo takes that one as well. We'll catch you next time.
heart is raised to race at the speed of light. When your heart is raised at the speed of light. Yeah, I'll keep you safe. Yeah, I'll keep you safe. I'll never let you go. When your heart is racing at the speed of light, and you feel like you got nowhere else to go. When your heart is raised to race at the speed of light. When your heart is raised at the speed of light. When your heart is raised to race at the speed of light. When your heart is raised at the speed of light.
I'll keep you safe. Yeah, I'll keep you safe. I'll never let you go. When your heart is racing, and you feel like you got nowhere else to go. When your